Hey guys, welcome back to another video by JLam Bio. Today we are going to dive into matter flow, which looks a little bit different than energy flow, which is what we talked about in our last video. Energy flows in one direction. We start off with the sun. It goes through the producer level, primary consumer, secondary consumer, and tertiary consumers, and so on. 10% being transferred each time, and 90% being lost to the environment as heat. Well, matter flows a little bit differently, and we'll take a look at that in this video. So stay tuned for another JLam Bio exclusive. Okay, I made that sound a lot more exciting than it's probably going to be, but, you know, deal with it. I'm JLam Bio. I can do what I want. By the end of this video, you should be able to differentiate between the flow of energy in an ecosystem and the cycling of matter and nutrients. Well, that just kind of ruined everything. I told you it was going to be different, and it's already there in the objectives of the video. Oh well. We're also going to be able to explain the rationale of why nutrients must cycle through an ecosystem every single time. It just ruins the whole thing. It's got the word cycle in it twice. Oh well. Life goes on. We got some key vocabulary terms for this video as well, including water cycle, precipitation, evaporation, carbon cycle, condensation, and the nitrogen cycle. So let's move on. So keep in mind that energy flows in one direction. Insert your own One Direction joke here. All I know is there's some guy named Liam Payne and Harry Styles and all that. I guess in this video I'm going to light up your world about matter flow. Moving on. Matter flows in cycles. We call these biogeochemical cycles. It's the cycling of nutrients between things that are living and things that are on the earth. So energy flows in one direction. Most of it's lost to the environment as heat. There's only so many nutrients and so many water molecules and carbon atoms and nitrogen atoms that are present on this earth, so they must cycle through an ecosystem. So one example of this is the water cycle, and we have a variety of different ways that water can flow. Evaporation is from liquid to water vapor, and this happens constantly through lakes, oceans, streams. Water evaporates from the water, liquid water, and goes into the atmosphere. Condensation is water vapor that forms clouds. The water condenses and forms large clouds. When those clouds get too heavy, they precipitate and form rain, and this process continues. Through animals drink the water, they sweat it out, they urinate it out, it goes back into the soil. Plants take in water, they transpire it, just like dew that's found on leaves and things like that, that transpires back into the atmosphere. So lots of different ways that water can cycle through an ecosystem. We also have something that's called the carbon cycle. In carbon cycle, organisms obtain carbon from the food that they eat. Plants obtain it from carbon dioxide in the air. We exhale carbon dioxide as we breathe in oxygen. Fossil fuels, when we burn fossil fuels, that puts carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. That can actually be taken into water. Carbon can be taken into water, and a lot of these processes cycle through the carbon. But keep in mind, it's not just one giant circle. There's lots of different ways that carbon can move in and out of an ecosystem. Another one is known as the nitrogen cycle. And the nitrogen cycle is a little bit different because atmospheric nitrogen really isn't very useful. Atmospheric nitrogen is a very stable compound and doesn't react with a whole lot of things, so we really can't use that. Plants, though, and bacteria have the ability to use nitrogen to create really important nitrogen-based chemicals. And so this process is called nitrogen fixation, where we convert atmospheric nitrogen into usable nitrogen. And a lot of times you find these in bacteria that are found in the roots of plants. They'll take atmospheric nitrogen and convert it into things like ammonium and nitrates and nitrites, and those can be used by plants to create a variety of different things. Nitrogen is one of the key bases of amino acids, and as we all know, amino acids are the building blocks of proteins. So nitrogen-fixing bacteria play a really important role in ensuring that nitrogen cycles through an ecosystem. Nitrogen is passed on in animals when animals go to the bathroom, whether it be through solid matter or through urine, and that's returned back into the soil that way as well. So lots of different factors, lots of different things in the nitrogen cycle. Now, also keep in mind that we can disrupt the nitrogen cycle, and we can disrupt a lot of biogeochemical cycles based on how we interact with the environment. So, for example, burning of forest fires. We accidentally start forest fires. That takes a lot of carbon that exists in trees and plants and things like that and puts it back up into the atmosphere. And that can be problematic because when there's disruptions in the cycle, it does not flow as evenly. And if it doesn't flow as evenly, then organisms may not be able to survive in those environments. Poor farming, for example, a lot of times individuals will add nitrogen as a fertilizer to their plants. And if they add too much, the nitrogen can actually run off into streams and can cause significant problems with like algae blooms and things like that. You've probably seen lakes where there's a lot of green algae that grows on it, and that's typically due to an excess of nitrogen that's present in the water. Well, that can have a negative impact on any fish or organisms that live in that pond. Coal mining and burning of fossil fuels is another example that puts carbon and nitrogen into the atmosphere and can cause significant problems with things like global warming, things with the biogeochemical cycles, and so on. So just keep in mind that humans tend to do a lot to disrupt the natural biogeochemical cycles that are present on Earth today. So it's a little bit short video today, but matter flow is pretty straightforward. It flows in cycles, whereas energy flows in one direction. Let's make that the word of the video. One direction. Haha, see what I did there? Things like water, nitrogen, carbon, etc. are finite on Earth, meaning that there's only a limited supply of them. And they flow in between living and non-living things. Humans, as well as natural events, can disrupt these cycles and cause significant problems for all living organisms. So keep in mind the objectives for this video. Relatively short one, but certainly something that's got a lot of consequences. We'll talk more about this when you come back to class. This is JLand Bio. Have a great day, guys. We'll talk to you later.